up, everybody? It's the Rottweiler Patriots. I'm Vegas.
And I'm T-Bone.
And we're coming at you with another video today where we're going to be doing our 2023 season in review. And there are going to be 4 different parts to this video. Bit of a long one, bit of a doozy, but lots to talk about. And as you can see, we're going to start with the New England Patriots. So let's hop right into it. The New England Patriots did not have the season that I thought they would have. Did not have the season I was hoping they would have. Going into the year, I liked our squad a lot, and I thought we had a pretty good chance of making the playoffs. But things got off to a rough start quickly when in training camp, none of our offensive linemen could stay healthy. And that simple fact kind of doomed the whole year. Against Philadelphia, who have one of the best defensive lines in football, we had to start 2 rookies. 2 rookie offensive guards, both of whom were our backups at the time, because both of our starting offensive guards were out. Had to start their first NFL game against the Philadelphia Eagles, this team that had just been to the Super Bowl and barely lost it on a controversial call. So, and it just kind of went downhill from there. Again, this is a team that I thought had a decent chance, even with how tough the division was supposed to be, of making the playoffs. But obviously, things didn't go quite as well for the Jets. Jets. Unfortunate injury for Aaron Rodgers. I was a bit excited to see him play, even though he's a division rival. And I do think it's sad that we'll never get to see Bill against him. But, Bills weren't as good for part. We actually beat the Bills. Our only home win. We had 4 wins this year, 3 of them away. Only home win came at the expense of the Buffalo Bills, and that game was a lot of fun. But not much else was fun for New England. Finished 4-13, second worst record in the league, behind the team we're going to talk about here in a few minutes. The season just spiraled completely downhill. We have the Philadelphia game. We played good against a reigning Super Bowl champion, barely lost. Played good against one of the better teams in the league, supposedly. I mean, they were, but not many teams were elite, so just there's a point of comparison. But still. They had one of the best offenses in the league. We held them pretty well. They're a team they look like they're going to win the division for a long, long time. They're still a pretty good team, regardless of their failings by the end. But, barely lost to the Miami Dolphins. Able to beat the Jets. Then the Dallas game happened. Matthew Judon, Christian Gonzalez were 2 fatalities to that game. And, of course, we'd already lost Marcus Jones for the year to Miami. And that, combined with our offensive line constantly having to shuffle guys in, shuffle guys out. Oh, this guy's now hurt, that guy's now hurt. No consistent starting lineup at any point. And then if a guy came back from injury, he wasn't playing to the level you'd expect him to play. Cole Strange took him a while to get going. By the time he got going, he was playing really, really well. And he got hurt again. But the Dallas game, we saw multiple key players, top 5 players on our team, get hurt for the whole year. And then you saw an offensive line have a complete meltdown that led to Mac Jones having a complete meltdown. At the end of the day, Mac Jones played terrible against Dallas, but the story of that game, in my mind, I watched that game. It was a rough experience. But the story of that game was Mac Jones had no time to do anything. Pressure in his face constantly. That led to mistakes. That led to turnovers. And receivers weren't exactly getting that open this year either. We had some of the worst separation in the league. And obviously, there were some health issues. After the Washington game, we didn't have Kendrick Bourne, who, our best receiver. We lost him for the year. Another great player. We ended up losing Ramondre for the year. So, which, and that was in the latter half of the season, but still, Ezekiel Elliott As good as he is and as much as I like him, is not built to be a full game running back. He's more that third down and pound it in the red zone kind of guy. He had a role that he was meant to play, and he was asked to take on more than he normally would, and he was admirable in the roles we asked him to play. But Mac Jones tried to do too much against Dallas. No one else was making plays, so he tried to make those plays, and he ain't Josh Allen. He has Josh Allen's turnover tendencies, not the playmaking abilities, when he's out there trying to make something happen. And then the Saints game was an absolute disaster. Same thing. Offensive line looked terrible. Boom, 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 crash, crash. Dead. Dead, buried, gone. And after that, his confidence was gone. Anytime anyone he got any pressure in the pocket, he couldn't handle it. The footwork out the window completely. Just started having all these problems, playing terribly, and they're and the offense just kept going downhill. Like you see, we had some decent showings at certain early points in the season, but once you hit that stretch of Indianapolis, New York, Los Angeles, things were really, really going downhill. And what really was tough was the games that we were in where we barely lost them, like the Commanders or the Raiders, And Mac Jones came up clutch in both those games. Jones was playing great in the Commanders game, was leading a clutch drive, hits Juju Smith-Schuster in the hands, which would have put them in field goal range to at least tie the game. He dropped, intercepted, game over. Raiders, Mac Jones drops a dime into the breadbasket of Devontae Parker. He drops the ball. Either a touchdown or well within range of easily scoring a touchdown in those last 2 minutes. I think it was 19-17 at that point. I think we ended up getting a safety, so we would have just needed a field goal to win. So Parker drops that pass. That cost us the game. When Mac was throwing dimes, even though he had shaky play because of the confidence failing, because, constantly under pressure, he still is making these plays. You add in the factor that he's making these plays and no one is there to help him, his receivers are dropping all these great passes he's throwing, of course he's going to completely fall off a cliff. If you can't trust the guys who are supposed to protect you, the guys who are supposed to make the plays for you to make the plays for you, and then your other big playmaker where you can just hand it off to him and let him do his thing goes down for the year? What do you think that's going to do to a quarterback? How many quarterbacks realistically do well in that situation? They don't. Mac Jones had more than his fair share of problems this year, but he was not the key problem. He was largely a victim of what this season was for us, and it was not what I thought it would be. And at the end of the day, it came down to injuries for me. Offensive line, never healthy. And then, you think, oh, we're going to get those guys back. Boom, boom, boom. You just lose all your best players. So by the end of the season, even when our offensive line has started to click a little bit, we're down half our biggest stars. Most of them, really. That's not a recipe for winning, I liked the squad. I liked the coaching staff headed into the year. I had really, really high hopes for this team. And it crashed and burned more gloriously than even I could have anticipated. T-Bone, I know been going on for a while there, but it is my team. I do want to get your thoughts on New England this year.
Well, it was just really sad and just not, I think, what, not even what I anticipated. I think I was not as high as them, high on them as you were. But I definitely thought they were going to make a little bit of noise. I envisioned 7 wins, or maybe going above 500. And like you, I like their squad. I like the pieces they brought in. But really, and this isn't an excuse, but those injuries, man, they
can kill a season. Look what happened to Baltimore last year. Baltimore were looking like one of the best teams in the league. Then they lost Lamar and half their team.
Mm-hmm. And really, on top of that, it's not just injuries; it's offensive line injuries. That's really is a killer. So, and then I'll also, Mac Jones's dead confidence and just transferring the starting position to Bailey Zappi and just all of that. So really just it's just a sad state of things. So I mean, I forgot that you guys didn't have Bill. I forgot that Bill was fired. So you know,
Yeah, and I thought Bill overall, I thought did a good job with the coaching this year. Obviously, the big thing is the personnel stuff, but I don't know if we actually got a chance to properly evaluate some of the personnel stuff. Now, obvious, and the other thing too is people criticize, oh, you should have kept Jacoby Meyer over Juju Smith-Schuster. Everyone before the season, every single person, saw us sign Juju Smith-Schuster for the exact same amount that the Raiders signed Jacoby Myers, and every single person said that's a win. Juju is better than
yep.
Myers. He just won the Super Bowl. He was wide receiver one on the Super Bowl champions, for crying out loud. And obviously, he did not have his best year by any stretch of the imagination. And he wasn't the same player that he was in Kansas City. He decided, I'll have a good year in Kansas City, up my value. Boom. It's always those contract years, I swear to God. Blake Bortles brought his team to the conference championship game, only good year he had. You saw Daniel Jones looked marginally impressive, although I think that's largely Brian Daboll's doing. On his contract year, he gets paid way more than he's worth. Holy moly. That was a dumb decision by the Giants to pay him that much money. But we still lost to the Giants, because why not? So, yeah, no. Offense, very, very, very disappointing. Ended up subbing out quarterbacks, which went mildly okay. What I saw with that was new face. Okay, bit of a new vibe, a new confidence. 0 points for Zappy's first game. No biggie. Only needed 1 touchdown to win that one. But then we go into Pittsburgh, and then we do good. Do good against Kansas City. Don't win, but do good. Chiefs ended up winning the whole thing. Beat the Broncos on Christmas. That game was electric. But by the end of the year, for me, Bailey Zappi was regressing into what Mac Jones became, because the same issues with the team, with the injuries, which affected the offensive line play, and then, with Kendrick Bourne going out for most of the year, and then Damari Douglas being out on and off, no really reliable receiving options, your top running back going down, not a lot of help around you, and Zappi started to feel that pressure bearing down on him. And he didn't have reliable people to throw to, and that led to him starting to have some of the same skittish tendencies that Mac Jones did. It was not an enviable position for any quarterback by any stretch of the imagination. And that's just the honest-to-God truth. I genuinely believe if Zappi started the year, and then we subbed in Mac later, Zappi would have been playing worse than Mac by the time the switch happened. And then Mac would have started good, and then gone downhill by the end of the year, just like Zappi did. That's my genuine belief. And I think had the Patriots played 2-3 more games, you would have seen us start to look like us in that stretch with Colts, Giants, Chargers. So, you would have seen that out of us again. Positives, defense generally, especially with all the injuries that we suffered on defense and all over the field. The way that we were able to adjust, and I give Bill Belichick a lot of credit for what he was able to do, the way we were able to adjust with all that was incredible. Finds a hidden gem in Alex Austin, who is a guy who I definitely think we should re-sign for sure. And Miles Bryant gets a lot of hate, but I thought he was good. I liked a lot of what I saw out of him. Special teams, our punting was very good. Brendan Schooler is turning into the next Matthew Slater. If he could, cut some of the penalties, although half the penalties I saw him get called for this year were complete BS. I don't know. Like, the refs were smoking some crack on some of those, but he does have a little bit of a penalty issue. But he's a young guy who I'm really liking. He's definitely a guy who I think we should re-sign for sure. That's a no-brainer. And, Bryce Behringer, great job with the punter. Now, kicking, Chad Ryland's not it. Not it. Whether we give him another shot, I don't know. New special teams coordinator, who I really like. So, but we'll see. In my ideal world, we sign Cameron Dicker. We sign Dicker the kicker. Yeah, other positives. I guess I'll look for a positive on the offense. 3 players Two of them tight ends. Hunter Henry stepped up in a big way this year, especially as guys started to fall down. Pharaoh Brown broke out this year, I thought. I really liked what I saw to him, and he's a guy I would love to re-sign. The other guy I want to give a shout out to is City Sow, rookie offensive guard, finished as our starting right guard. And by the end of the year, he was playing pretty solid. And he was building really good chemistry with Michael Onwenu, especially in the run game. And moving Onwenu over to right tackle as well was a huge move for us. Offensive tackle was an issue all year. We moved to right tackle. Our offensive line immediately got better. And Onwenu is a guy I'd love to resign for the right tackle position. 100%. So, there's things to like there. But, at the end of the day, not the season that I thought we'd have, that I obviously wanted to have. No one wants to be the second worst team in the entire NFL. And the fact that we're picking third when we have the same record as the Commanders and they beat us is stupid. But their arbitrary strength of schedule metric is what determines draft picks over if one of the teams beat the other teams. Which, if that's how playoffs were decided, it's like, let's say the Chiefs and Bills played. The Bills beat the Chiefs, and they ended up finishing with the same record. One team gets in, one team gets out, but the Chiefs had a tougher strength of schedule. They get in over the Bills. That's stupid. The fact that same logic is being applied to the draft is absurd. But those are kind of my thoughts on New England this year. Not a lot, there's a lot, and there's going to be a lot to talk about with them going forward, especially with Bill Belichick being fired and everything else, but it was a rough year for New England. T-Bone, want to get your final thoughts before we move on to Carolina?
I agree. It was a rough year, but definitely you got to look at the positives, and I think the positives are, for sure, your defense. And you know what? I'm going to say it. I think you guys have one of the brighter futures in the NFL.
I don't disagree. This year was an unmitigated disaster, and, I think it's a couple years before we're Super Bowl contenders, but I think if we make the right moves this offseason, we're at least we're fighting for a wild card. I don't think this squad is as bad as this record shows. I just think we just got so marred with injuries from the very beginning that we never had a chance. And that, chain reactions affected a lot of guys, affected the way guys played, just didn't go how we all hoped. But, this year's over. It's in the past. We're now moving forward. New regime, new everything. We're going to break it down. Let's build it all up again. And I think we're at a pretty good starting point. I actually think, it's a pretty good situation, especially with the amount of cap we have this offseason. So, not the 2023 I wanted, but we're going to close the door on this chapter, move on to a new one, and looking forward to what we're able to do in the future. And now we're going to talk about the Carolina Panthers, who, well, I think everyone here could say they did not have the season they were hoping they would have. Only worst team in the NFL, 2 wins, leading for exactly 0 seconds of game clock over the course of the entire season. That's not true. 0 seconds, leading for 0 seconds in the fourth quarter over the course of the entire season. There were early parts of the game, like their blowout loss to Miami, where they were winning.
We led it a couple halves.
Yeah.
I think 3 halves we led.
Yeah.
The Hawks game, Saints game, I think.
But not the year Carolina wanted. So, T-Bone, I am going to pass this one over to you. I want to get your thoughts on your team.
So basically, I think I can surmise my thoughts into the category of where are we at, which is basically a rebuild. And with that being said, and with that going forward, kind of analyze where we are now versus where we are last year. And last year, we were basically where we are now, which is a rebuild. That being said, yes, we've gone through 2 rebuilds in 1 year. Like I said, that being said, I will say I think that this year we are in a better, more brighter future / position than we were last year. Because last year we went in completely blind. We were going off of what Tepper wanted. We had Frank Reich and the Reich um, sort of era of things. And this year we have the QB. We have the QB we know we want. We kind of have an idea of what our problems were. And we have, I personally think, a better, more um, player friendly Carolina Panther friendly, culture friendly staff and front office. I think both of those things. So obviously, we're not in a great position. We're in a rebuild right now, but we were in a rebuild last year. Um, but I absolutely think that we are in a better, more fortuitous, fortunate position and rebuild than where we were last year. So though we are in another rebuild, I much more like our future. I much more think our future is brighter um, with this one. With this one, I definitely I'm liking the choices that we are making a whole lot more. Now, obviously, I have to be cautiously hopeful because if I get my hopes up too much, we're going to go 1-16. That being said, I really do like our new guys that we've been picking. Um, Really, the big problem, firstly, was the injury bug. We didn't have ourselves a good bit of injury either, or a good bit of health. We had a lot of injury, defense and a little bit of offensive line for sure. And then another part of that is also offensively we were just abysmal, barring a couple of times, a couple of games where we would show flashes, but really, offensively we had a problem. So we know what to do with that. We know how to deal with that. Um, so I think I said this last year because of the newness of the team, you know. And again, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but we've got going into this offseason, we've got a completely new team to make. Got a completely new hardware to deal with. You know, barring some mainstays, Thielen and Bryce and the defense. So, but we've got a lot of new guys to rotate in. So, but I'm excited. I'm excited. Uh, I think partially why I'm excited is when you're this low, excuse me, when you're this low, there's only one way you could go, and that's up. And knock on wood, we could maybe, God, go 0 and 17, but or 1-16, 2-15, but I doubt it. I think that Canales is um gonna do good things. It's gonna do really good things. So uh and if he keeps David Tepper in check, and I remember I'm feeling a lot better since last week because last week I sounded like a frog, but I feel much better. Um, if we can keep David Tepper from doing all this crap, good fortune. That automatically some of the battle won. So, and obviously you can see the problem. We got shut out. Our last two games we got shut out, and that's abysmal. That's not something that a football team uh, should let happen, let alone twice. So clearly we have in mind what we want to fix, and we know Bryce is our guy, and not just the Panthers, not just the Panthers, but I mean, the love of God, you got C.J. Stroud, you got Tua, you got RG3. I mean, and so many different people, rallying around Bryce, believing in uh, his sophomore year, I mean, I do too. I believe in it. I think totally. You get the right people around him, the right people coaching him, the right people around him. The sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. So, I think really that is kind of my my basic thoughts on this team. Vegas, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think you got a pretty good grasp of everything. Obviously, defense really, really good, and I think keeping Evero was massive. Now, obviously, you're going to have to be able to re-sign guys like Burns, Louvie. There's guys who are going to be free agents who are going to be a teensy bit pricey, but y'all generally have a decent amount to work with. The big thing is the lack of top draft capital. You don't have the number one overall pick. Chicago owns it because you traded for the number one overall pick last year with Chicago, and you gave the
Yep.
number one overall pick in turn. So they're gonna
Mm-hmm.
have Chicago's gonna have their pick later, and obviously have their own difficult decision to make. But you still have some stuff. You got those picks from San Francisco for the McCaffrey trade, and how the heck you didn't get any first rounders out of that is beyond me. That was the biggest
It's because they didn't.
bag
It's because
fumble
they
of
didn't
all time.
It's because they didn't have any first rounders. Because you remember, because they gave them up because of the Trey Lance.
My word. Lots,
I'm-
lot,
and I'm
lots
not-
of, lots of, lots of weird decisions. They couldn't even give you like 2025.
No, because now we're dabbling into baseball and basketball.
Oh yeah, we got picks being for 2030 already being traded.
Exactly.
Just wild to me. But I mean, no, the defense struggled, or the defense was really good, and the offense struggled. And that's not on Bryce Young. Bryce Young was one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league. It's just had a lot of the same problems as the Patriots. No good offensive line play, and receivers just were not open. I think the Panthers had overall the worst separation in the entire league, if I can recall correctly. And if not, they're like down there in the bottom three. Like they were really, really, really bad at getting open. Adam Thielen, career resurgence, but I mean, still wasn't amazing by any stretch, and he was still your best option. Hayden Hurst started off pretty good, but didn't finish off the best. It definitely feels like there were some guys who had good starts and then didn't have good finishes on the offense receiving wise. Generally, weapons weren't there. Offensive line play was really bad, completely abysmal. And the running game, which is normally a strength of this team, wasn't on point. And a big part of that does come down to, the offensive line play. But I do also think, there was some, like Miles Sanders was getting the ball too much. He was not as good as, we hoped he would be. And we definitely could see how he was a product of that Philadelphia Eagles offensive line. But, it's just a lot. It's a lot that happens, especially the team was always in a rebuild mode, but I don't think we anticipated about it was good because there were several key players who showed unexpected regression, most notably Ike Ekwonu. Ike Ekwonu was a rookie last year, and he was a top 3 left tackle across the entire NFL, and he fell off a cliff this year. How much of that is him versus Frank Reich? Obviously, he's going to have some issues, but I also think scheme does matter, and one of the things that people don't look at very often when evaluating offensive linemen and guys, whatever, is scheme. There are some offensive linemen who are just built who are built to fit a certain style of play and aren't going to do so hot in other styles of play. And I do think there was a scheme change with the new regime last year, I think, where Ekwonu was less favored. I also think that's part of why Cole Strange struggled a little bit, is it wasn't quite the same look, and he was able to adjust. And I'm back in New England land here for a sec, just to kind of give a point of comparison. He was able to adjust, but he did have a little bit of issue where he wasn't used to the new style of play with the new offensive regime. So lots of different factors. At the end of the day, personnel, a big one. You definitely need a better wide receiver. You need a proper wide receiver one. And you need to work on that offensive line. And then defense is going to be a matter of keeping the right guys, and then if you can't keep this guy because you think he's going to be too expensive, if you don't think he's the right fit, who are you going to bring in to replace him? And how are you going to be able to draft? You don't have any high-level draft picks, but, you have a decent amount of draft capital. Just purely because of San Francisco. So, I think the future for Carolina is generally bright. I just think it's going to take them a couple of years before they're going to be where they want to be because of how broken the team was this year. And the big issues were on offense. And the Panthers had a lot of injuries, but most of their key injuries at the end of the day were on the defensive side of the ball. Not a ton of guys on offense got hurt. And so I think what you saw on the Panthers offense is a much more raw version of what they really are compared to New England, where you kind of got the broken and beaten a little more. Obviously, there were some issues with that New England offense personnel-wise, but I think they got more affected by injuries than Carolina did. So I think Carolina definitely has a ways to go before they're a good football team, but this offseason, I am very happy with the decisions that the organization has made to move forward. It does look like David Tepper is actually going to maybe take a step back, and if he does, y'all are golden. Because I really like Dan Canales. I really like Dan Morgan. I like everything that you guys are doing with the coaching staff, with the front office. Now it's just going to be a matter of bring in the right guys, make it happen. I think Bryce is going to be a very good football player. I think he was set up to fail last year. And I really and truly wish him the best. The best of luck, the best of everything. I wish him a long, prosperous career, and I wish that the Carolina Panthers are successful in bringing about the culture again and making it all happen. Really excited with the moves you made, but it's going to be a pretty long road. Next year will not be the best for y'all, just because you're that broken as a squad. But at the end of the day, it's can you take a step forward? And if you can, there's a lot to like. T-Bone?
Yeah, I think that's about it. I think that some people don't even have their guy. I think we have our guy. I think Bryce is our guy. So, I think we can even in the smallest victories. I think we can take away from that we got our guy. We are currently in a better position than some because some people don't even have their guy. I don't know. Now, I don't know if I agree. But some people think that the Commanders are in a worse position because they don't even have their guy. I actually might even agree with that because they have Dan Quinn as their head coach.
I think it's that more than that, because Commanders' number 2 pick, they're going to have basically their pick of the litter besides whoever Chicago chooses, and no one knows what Chicago's doing. They could be, getting Harrison, they could be getting quarterback. Honestly, I have no idea with them. So, but, and that is the thing that y'all have over New England. I said New England is generally in a more advantageous position than Carolina, but y'all do have your guy, and we don't. And so, and obviously it's like, oh, do we draft one this year? I'm not 100% on the drafty quarterback train. Obviously, it's a very complex situation in New England. We have a lot of different avenues we can take ourselves, and that's a future video that is currently in the works. Or we're going to be doing our whole armchair GM thing. That stuff should come out next week. But, that is definitely the biggest positive, is y'all have the toughest position to figure it out, and it's not going to cost you a lot of money for the first few years. So, that I think that's a pretty big positive, and it's step one of many steps y'all need to take going forward. Alrighty, so now we're going to talk about the NFL season as a whole. We've, done a brief synopsis of our each respective teams, and in the third part here, going to talk about the whole league. You can see Kansas City, Super Bowl 58 champions. I want to wish them a cold congratulations. Screw them. Only the Patriots are allowed to have a dynasty. Now they're one. But no, Chiefs able to get the job done, and, we haven't really had a chance to talk about the Super Bowl, so we'll briefly touch on that before we get to the overarching season. Chiefs take on the San Francisco 49ers, and this game irritated me so much because the Chiefs' offense did absolutely nothing and were overall being outplayed by San Francisco completely. And then they got a completely artificial momentum swing in which the 49ers did nothing, didn't make any mistakes to result in it. The Chiefs did nothing to earn it. They literally got a Super Bowl winning bounce to go their way when they were being completely shut down. Steve Wilkes got fired. I've heard a lot of mixed results about that, and, I get where both sides are at on that one. Not going to really talk about that much. But there's no denying that in this game, his defense did a really, really good job for the first 3 quarters of the game. Completely shut down the Chiefs, and the only reason the Chiefs got going was because of this stupid little bounce. One unlucky bounce is all it took to completely change the Super Bowl, where it looked pretty clear that San Francisco was going to win. And I feel bad for San Fran, man. They played a really hard-fought game. They didn't really make any big mistakes. And that's the thing that I liked about this Super Bowl. It wasn't like both teams played really, really good, especially on defense. Both defenses were spectacular. And they were like, if you're going to beat us, you have to earn it, unless you're given a free bounce. That's the thing. Both teams were playing so well that it's like, you want to win, you earn it. But then the Chiefs were just given a free opportunity based purely on luck. And it was the deciding factor in this game, in my opinion. That ball doesn't bounce off his foot. 49ers win easily. So I feel really, really bad for San Francisco. They played a great game. I feel really bad for Brock Purdy. He did nothing wrong. He played himself a fine football game. He did what he needed to do. And Spagnuolo talked about, they were like, he had to completely switch it up because Purdy was shredding them. And, there's all this discourse around Brock Purdy, superstar, game manager, playmaker, this, that. Brock Purdy, for me, his best trait, 100% is his poise. He will stand there in the pocket under all the pressure in the world, and he'll show poise and do what he needs to do. Is he a little more prone to mistakes than some of the top guys? A little bit, yeah. He's not always going to be on target. He's not always going to be perfect. But generally, he's going to make the right decision. Generally, he's going to give you a good throw, and he is going to play with more poise than maybe any other quarterback in the entire league. And just purely based on that, I think he's set up for success as an NFL quarterback, and I think it helps that he's on a team as good as San Francisco with a coach as good as Kyle Shanahan. And Shanahan is going to take all this flack for another blown lead in the Super Bowl. I don't think he deserves that hate. I really and truly don't. I think Shanahan's a great coach. And I'm going to tell you right now, winning is very hard. Everyone's like, Andy Reid, top 5 of all time. It's like Andy Reid took 2 decades to win his Super Bowl. He had to wait a long time to get one. Shanahan's still a young coach. He'll get a ring. He'll have one under his belt. At least one before it's over. I mean, some of the best coaches only have one, or maybe don't even get any. Because winning is very, very hard. And you saw that. Both teams hard fought. One team got a little luckier than the other, and when it came down to it, made the plays that they needed to make to win. And that was Kansas City. T-Bone, what are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah. I'm surprised that there's not I mean, I haven't seen enough about. I mean, typically, if I was a team that went back to back, you better believe I'd be plastering it all over. And I'm not seeing that a lot. I remember.
I am.
Um, are you?
I'm I'm actually so kind of I'm seeing Chiefs fans being more obnoxious about how Mahomes is better than Brady than I am about the whole back to
Hmm.
back thing.
See, that's what I'm seeing. I'm seeing a lot more about Mahomes than I'm seeing actually back to
Which
back.
it's like, okay, I let's have an honest conversation. Patrick Mahomes is a spectacular quarterback. He's probably already earned himself top 5 of all time. He's not the greatest of all time. He has not earned that
I
title yet.
actually, I don't have him top 10 all time. Not yet. Not yet. And you want to know why I don't have him top 10 all time?
Why?
And I guarantee you, when it's all said and done, he'll be top 5 all time. I have no doubt in that. I personally, me T-Bone, I don't have him top 10 all time. The um the
Uh,
rings that
for
he's won.
for
Hmm?
for, for the record, T-Bone does have Johnny Unitas as better than Patrick Mahomes, so take this whole opinion with a grain of salt.
I do.
He has Johnny Unitas better than Terry Bradshaw, which is a
I
travesty in
have
my opinion.
I have Johnny Unitas at 10. And honestly, my I would say my list needs a little bit of tweaking for sure. Um, I think I have Mahomes top 20 right now for sure, easily. I think Mahomes is better than Big Ben right now, so probably top 15. Top 15 is where Mahomes is right now. Um, but you having two championships that had incredibly that won their path, and two, the game itself was incredibly scuffed. Um,
I wouldn't
I
call
don't
this game that scuffed. So we'll
look at
we'll
the
we'll
path. Look at the path.
we'll touch on that. We'll touch on that in a minute. Let's finish talking about the game because I actually did want to touch on that whole bit a little bit. But continue.
But I mean, overall, as a game itself, it was pretty fun. It was a pretty fun game. It really it I people aren't really into big defensive games. I would say I am. So I did not mind it as much as some people. Some people were saying this was one of the worst Super Bowls in the first three quarters. I wouldn't say that.
Oh, I loved
Um,
it.
I
My dad,
I liked it.
who normally is really good at appreciating great things, found the game incredibly boring. He kept saying most boring Super Bowl of all time, and then
That's not true.
he said that, and he was saying like 8 other things that I just he said like 8 other things to try to compare the Super Bowls, and I just kept like Super Bowl 53, Super Bowl 53, and I just kept going back to that with him. It was actually kind of a funny exchange.
Yeah.
But I
But
understand why people
really,
found it boring, just because offense is what's entertaining, but
people like that. People like
there
that.
wasn't bad offense. It was just really spectacular defense. And I, as a big fan of football, can appreciate that. And I enjoyed it. Sorry to continue.
Um, no. Go ahead. You're all good. Really, but I did appreciate that this was able to go to overtime. I do like that. I like that this game was able to make it to overtime. Same with same with 2016. I thought this was great. I thought this thought this was great. Uh, especially ramping up in overtime. This is great. I really, obviously, I wanted San Francisco to win. And I had them. I thought they were going to win. I thought not only were they going to win, I wanted them to win. Um, but it was a fun game. It was a very fun game. So, um, I guess that's my 2 cents on it. I thought it was a fun game. I did. Um, and I agree. I want to touch on that a little bit. Uh, some of um his greatest assets, Purdy, is his poise. I completely agree. Completely agree. But I also agree that I'd have to look at it. He might not be the 10th best. He might not be um the 10th best player on his team in the 49ers. Brock Purdy, but that's not hating to
That's
him.
not an
I
indictment
don't
of
think
him. That's just saying the
no.
49ers have a really,
That's
really, really good football team, and there was a
yeah,
really,
no.
really, really good reason why they were one really unlucky bounce away from being Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, no, totally.
That's not an indictment of Brock Purdy. It's just saying the 49ers are good. There's no shade. It's no disrespect. There's all this talk about it's. This is one of the situations. If you ever seen that tweet where it's Twitter be like is like a guy goes, "I like pancakes," and then other people say, "Oh, so you hate waffles?" It's that kind of a situation. A lot of the discourse around Brock Purdy, I think. I think there's some people who are
Hmm.
showing some disrespect to him. There are other people who are overhyping him a little bit. I think Brock Purdy is generally a great quarterback. I would not call him elite. I think there is a bit of a difference. But Brock Purdy is a guy who's going to show more poise than most guys ever, and he's going to be able to read and make good throws most of the time. Is he? Does he have the same playmaking capability of Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen? No, he does not. It would be silly to say otherwise. But that doesn't mean that he's not a great quarterback. So I don't. I just wish people would stop being so stupid. But that's not allowed anymore. Everyone's got to be an idiot. And then and now I think is a good chance to talk about the referees and the whole Kansas City path. All of this. Last year, Kansas City won both the conference championship game and the Super Bowl on some really shoddy refereeing. Really shoddy refereeing. Like, awful calls or no calls. You know? And the other teams were not given a fair chance despite playing well and largely doing enough. This year, I think, was less the case. I think Kansas City, to a degree, earned it a bit more this year. Now, first conference championship game, you know our thoughts. We were very not happy with the way the refs played. But the Baltimore Ravens also did not do themselves very many favors in that game. That wasn't the case with Cincinnati and Philadelphia last year to the same degree. Not even. There's always going to be little things you could do better. Like there's no game where you can do everything perfectly. But the level of mistakes that Baltimore made all over the place, especially with the play calling, compared to the level of mistakes that were made by Philadelphia and Cincinnati last year, two different ballparks. And the other thing too is those calls don't. The Eagles one, for a fact that those calls directly affected how that game finished. Same with the Bengals stuff. You can't. You can say it changes, gives the Ravens a chance, but the Ravens still have to learn to get out of their own way. Because if they're not getting out of their own way, they might not still win that game. Now, when we come to the Super Bowl, the referees in the Super Bowl were awful. They were terrible. But they made terrible calls that favored both teams. Overall, the referees were generally even with their terribleness, except for one factor in the game, and that was their absolute refusal to call an offensive hold on the Kansas City Chiefs. Like, I swear to God, okay? The Chiefs' offensive line can all pull out machine guns, gun down the whole defense. And the referees would just look and be like, that's legal. That's the one thing about the Super Bowl that bothered me. I think they got San Francisco for 2 holding calls over the course of the game. So hold wasn't called a lot, but some of the stuff that Kansas City got away with in that game, especially on a couple of key plays, really bothered me. But it doesn't bother me as much because that's not that what those really weren't the key factors that affected the game. It was that stupid bounce. And they were also making some pretty terrible, god awful calls in favor of San Francisco. So I think generally the edge was slightly towards the Chiefs, but it was not substantial enough where I have too big of a complaint other than the offensive holding thing. T-Bone, I want to get your thoughts on this whole issue.
Um, no, no, you're right. You're right. I think I'm a little bit too quick to jump the gun on the refs and the Chiefs. I mean, there clearly is a problem. Clearly, there is scales tipped their way.
There was
But it
also
wasn't as
less at
bad.
stake in this game because it's like the outcome doesn't matter. Just getting the Chiefs here mattered. And I mean, you saw most views in Super Bowl history. I don't think it's a coincidence the Super Bowl where Taylor Swift is at, where Taylor Swift's boyfriend is playing. I don't think it's a coincidence that that's the
No,
most viewed Super Bowl
no.
in history. And you kind of saw that with some of the calls that they made in Baltimore.
Yeah, no, completely. Um, but yeah, no, really, I think that just the real problem is the holding, and other than that, there's not much. I mean, and really, you're right. That stupid bounce. Ugh.
But at the end of the day, you
Yeah.
have
No.
luck is a part of the game.
Yeah. No.
You got to be lucky to be good, and you got to be good to be lucky. That's just
Yep.
the truth. And I'm not going to sit here and pretend that the New England Patriots did not have their fair share of luck over the course of their dynasty, such as the NFL having one of the stupidest rules I've ever heard of. And I love how it's like, oh, the tuck rule. The tuck rule was not a bad call, but it was a very stupid rule. Very stupid rule. And it was, of course, eliminated as it should have been. But sometimes stupid rules are a part of the game. Sometimes they favor one team over the other. And, the Patriots also had a couple instances where the tuck rule hurt them earlier in that season. So it's
Yeah.
not like, oh, this is an anomaly. It's a thing that had been called and it affected teams both ways. It's just the moment that it occurred in is what made it game-changing. And there were definitely a few other times where we had a few bounces go our way. That's always the case. You have to have a few bounces go your way if you're going to win consistently. Winning is very hard. And as annoying as it is to see the Chiefs doing what they're doing, and as annoying as to see them get some of this extra help, even if they didn't get the help, they'd still go far every year, and they'd still do well, because they are built to win. Winning is hard, and they've shown that they can make it happen. So, I don't, obviously, they've gotten some help, and it's definitely affected them and given them a bit of an unfair advantage over other teams. But it doesn't change the fact that they're still a very good football team. And even if they hadn't won 3 Super Bowls, what they would have done over this time period would still be very, very impressive. That's the honest to God truth. I'll sit here and hate on the Chiefs all day because I don't want them to win. Because I don't want the teams to have high levels of success. I want my team to have high levels of success. I don't want other teams to have dynasties. I want my teams to have dynasties. But that doesn't mean that I can't sit here and also be honest about how good they are and how impressive they are as a football team. T-Bone, any final thoughts before we move on to the season as a whole?
No. I think you're completely right about. It's one thing to, hate on them, but also you gotta face facts. Facts is they're good.
Yeah, that honest to God truth. It sucks that they're winning, but they're darn good. There's a reason they're winning. Alrighty, now, I guess we can talk about the season in a whole. This was a very, very bad season, in my opinion. The play across the league was down. There were only a few truly great teams, in my opinion, and then there were some teams that kind of came into their own by the end of the season, and it just took them a while. Good example of that is Tampa Bay. And even then, their last game of the year, they beat the Panthers 9-0. But then they also went toe-to-toe with the Lions after they were able to destroy the Philadelphia Eagles, So it's kind of a funky year. No consistency whatsoever. You got the Dallas Cowboys losing to the Cardinals one week and then murdering Patriots the next week. They're no consistent play. Quarterback play overall was down. It's interesting because running back play has really been going down, and this year is a good example of that. There's a reason no one wanted to pay running backs big money, and everyone's like, oh, this is a travesty, we got to save the running position. Or evolve your game so that you are worth the value that you want instead of sitting around and complaining. The game naturally evolves. Skill sets that were once valuable are no longer valuable. You're starting to see that with the running back position. Evolve your game. Whining will not fix it. Okay? That's kind of where I'm at on that. That needs to be your attitude. But I mean, a year where running back play was generally down across the league, especially with a lot of big-name running backs who got hurt. A running back was the best player in the NFL. That was Christian McCaffrey. McCaffrey should have won MVP, didn't because he's not a quarterback. Best quarterback was Lamar Jackson. MVP is the best quarterback award, or the quarterback on the team with the best record award. You know it goes. I mean, none of the best quarterback wins every year. Just look at 2021. Tom Brady only has one of the best seasons ever. But Aaron Rodgers wins it because reasons or something like that. And, But this was not a... The overall play across the board was not very good. Now, the defense generally was good. Now, what I will say about this year is that this year marked there was a certain level of defensive evolution that occurred in the way defenses schemed, and the offenses hadn't caught up. And I do think that's a big reason why play overall was down. I do not think that is the only reason. I think generally play as a whole will not be as high as it was in the 2000s and the 2010s, going into the 2020s and the 2030s. Even as the game continues to evolve, schemes continue to evolve, offenses figure out how to beat these defenses and make it happen. The one thing for me that you just can't change is the overall intelligence of the average human being in the United States of America is going down. That is an undeniable fact. And I think you're going to start seeing that, especially in these next 10 years. You're starting to see the effects of it a little bit right now. I think the next 10 years, you're going to see a lot of people who just aren't going to be as smart as previous generations were. And it's going to affect the game. Is that a harsh truth? Yes. There's a difficult truth here? Yes, but it's the truth regardless. And I think part of that, you saw a bit of a sample of that this year with some of that, combined, of course, with the defensive evolution of the game. And of course, it's like, oh, everything's so dumb. It's like, why is everything evolving so well? Because the guys who were coaching well are older. They're from the previous generation where everything wasn't dumbed down. So they're still smarter. Like all the best coaches are in their 40s, 50s, 60s. That comes from that era where everyone didn't have anything dumbed down for them. So I think you're going to start seeing that with players over the next 10 years. It's a tough truth. And it's not one that anyone's talking about. I know that much. But, again, I think you saw its mark on this year. I don't think the consistency, I think it affected the consistency. I think it affected offense's play. And I also think it's going, the football requires you to think a lot, especially to break down a team or figure out, oh, how do I play through this scheme or how do I do with that? And Brady talked about it a little bit, where guys were instead of seeing, oh, this is the play, no one's going to be open, instead of changing plays to where people are going to be open, it's I'm just going to run the ball myself and hope. You're seeing things like that. I think that's a bit of the evidence of that. And I think you're really going to start to see that take an effect. Offensive coaching next year, I think, is going to take a big step forward, so I do think you're going to see things be better in that respect. But it's going to come down to how do the players handle all of it. Generally, they're going to be guys who are obviously smarter than everyone else. Because even though the average intelligence is going down, there's still going to be super smart dudes who are going to figure it out. Just because that's going to be the case doesn't mean that the average is still going to be going down. So, it's going to be interesting to see how it affects the game of football going forward. Again, this isn't a conversation I've heard anyone having, but it's something that I've definitely noticed. And I also don't think the NFL, the league itself, is helping anything, because they're also being incredibly stupid with rules, officiating, all of it. It's a whole... The NFL has a lot of problems that they as a league need to solve. And combined with the overall lack of quality in play this year, which is due to a multitude of factors, an overall lack of quality of I guess I should also say, entertaining play, because again, this was the year for defense. Defense mattered a lot this year. Defenses had the upper hand this year. I definitely think that affects that kind of perception, but there was also definitely the issue of consistency, where, teams would play really good one week and really bad the next week. That's the biggest thing for me that made this season bad, even though it was set to be a less entertaining season by virtue of the defense having the advantage scheme-wise. I think even with that, consistency and discipline were not the best this year, and had a major effect across the league. So, and I'm worried that teams aren't going to be able to learn how to be consistent again. Because it was it wasn't just, a few teams. This issue was widespread across the entire league. Even the best teams in the whole league had consistency issues that you don't normally see out of the best of the best. So that's kind of the big thing for me this year. T-Bone, I want to get your thoughts on all of this. I know I dumped a lot out there for you.
I mean, I don't really know how to surmise it better. I mean, you said it pretty well, but really, the league is changing, and that's just a fact. I think the best. God, I'm gonna sound like such a boomer. Honestly, I think the best era of football, the most competitive era, is behind us, and I think that's a fact. And I think it may fluctuate. I think it may get a little bit more competitive, because this was a really uncompetitive year. That's a fact as well. This is a very uncompetitive year. But really, I think the most competitive years are behind us. I think they were 2000s, 2010s. So, and it sucks to see. But I mean, it's just a fact of life. It's just a fact of life, and um, part of that, like you said, is the personnel. And some people, there are going to be smart people that are going to figure out how to get around defenses, and there are some people that won't. And I think, and I would like to talk about this a little bit. I think that we're being too hard on defenses, almost for the sake of offense, and that's just not what used to happen. Defense used to be hard hitting and rough, and the offense would figure it out. But now it's different. It's kind of, you're playing to the offense. You're kind of being hard on defense. You can't just play defense anymore, and that sucks. So, really, I mean, just on this, commenting on this season, it was just really not competitive. Just not a competitive bunch. And it sucks, because this is a competitive league, but I guess that's sort of my soapbox of I know this league can be more competitive, and it just wasn't this season.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree. You take like top 5 teams from 10 years ago, they would all blow the best teams with a couple of exceptions out of the water. Like the gap is, I think, very big between where we're at now and where we were 10 years ago. And I don't know if it's going to improve. I don't think it's going to improve. But at the end of the day, it is the hand that the league is dealt that we are dealt. So it's an interesting scenario to watch at minimum. Next year is going to be really interesting because I really, really want to see how the offensive coaches evolve their game to beat these schemes. Because, quite frankly, the defensive secondary schemes have proven to be very difficult to beat. They've proven very, very tough. It's hard. It's really, really hard for quarterbacks to make the right reads about everything. It's really hard. like, you think about like Terry Bradshaw was talking about. I think it was on podcast with Julian Edelman's Games with Names podcast, where he was talking about how it's a lot harder to read everything today, and he doesn't envy the position these guys are put in because the defenses are so much more complex. And so, but I do want to see how offenses choose to evolve. I'm very curious about all that. And at the end of the day, I love football, and regardless of even if the league itself will tank, I will continue to be a fan of the sport, and I will continue to watch my favorite team, even if we suck, like we did this year. Kill me. So definitely not the best NFL season, though, in my opinion. T-Bone, any final thoughts before we move on to part 4?
Just one more thing. Obviously, it fluctuates the teams, and the seasons. Uh, Obviously, there's fluctuating stuff. So, you were talking about, top 5 teams from 10 years ago versus today. And you're right, they would smack them. But, that's not to say that, some years there's just fluctuation about the competition. There's just fluctuation. So, but that's not this. This isn't just a fluctuating year. You can tell this is on a downward trend, you know? So,
Yeah, I mean,
that,
last year
I
was
guess that's my 2 cents.
definitely downhill from the previous year. Like,
Yeah,
last year was pure chaos, and everyone was like, "Oh, there's no way it gets worse than that." And then this year ended up being worse. And I'm almost like bracing for the same thing to be next year, where like next year ends up being even worse, less consistent, more chaotic than this year was. I mean, for crying out loud, the Carolina Panthers might win the Super Bowl just because of it.
God, I hope so.
I'm hoping that the Patriots and Panthers uh, play in the Super Bowl again during our lifetimes when we're actually able to watch and remember the game. Actually, were you even? I was alive when that game happened. Were you even alive?
God, I'd be cutting it
I don't
close.
think you would have been.
Mm, no,
Mm. So
no,
I
no, I
guess I
wasn't.
can say in both of our lifetimes.
Yeah, in both our
you
lifetimes.
know, especially like while we still have this channel, because it's very possible we don't have this forever. Obviously, we would love for this thing to go the distance and to become some of the biggest and best content creators in the football space, which obviously is going to be a lot tougher now that the space is much more well established. We understand that, and we're kind of I'm jumping a little ahead to part 4 there with that, but I would love to see the Patriots and Panthers play in a Super Bowl against each other because I love both organizations a lot. And I think it'd be fun, like us, you and I, plus our teams, just head to head. It'd be a lot of fun, especially, and I think it'd make great content for this channel right here. For sure.
It'd be nice.
But it's a tough league to win in, man. It's really, really hard. So, regardless of some of the help they've gotten, it still need what Kansas City has done. It's pretty impressive, and, regardless of my feelings about them and my desire to see them lose, I got to acknowledge greatness when it's there. And I do want to congratulate them on winning the Super Bowl in this hectic, chaotic year. And now we're on to the fourth part of this video, where we're going to talk about our 2023 season as a channel and, discuss some stuff for the future, things that we think we can improve upon, we'd like to work on. And then we'd also love for you all to put anything in the comments where you think we're doing this well, keep doing it well. Hey, this is something else you could be doing better. We're in our first year as a YouTube channel, and no channel has it figured out at the beginning. We know that. We know that there's plenty of stuff that we can work on. We want to be able to bring the best quality content to you all. And so we obviously will look at our own process and try to figure out, okay, what can we do better here? And then we would love to hear from you all. Like, tell us what you want to see from us. Any ideas of, like, hey, could you do a video on this? Could you do a video on that here? Or it's like, oh, this is a thing that I think you could be doing better in your videos. We want to hear all of it. We would love to hear it. Any advice is greatly appreciated. We want this to be a place where y'all have a bit of a voice in what we do. Because if, we're not giving you what you want, we're doing you a disservice. And so, when we look back at our 2023 season, we're up to 48 subscribers. We will do a special at 100. We did one live stream. We live streamed the 49ers and Cowboys game, which ended up being a 49ers blowout. I don't think we had more than one viewer at a time for that, and a couple of those were friends of ours who were mad that we were doing a live stream instead of playing 40K with them. But I enjoyed the live stream. T-Bone, I don't want to speak for you, but I assume you also enjoyed that.
I did. I did enjoy it. Obviously, it took a lot. If I may take over a little bit. It it took a lot, and also I think um, part of the problem was not only did it take a long time, but your TV was behind mine, so I had to. If something crazy
Yeah.
happened, then I'd have to wait like 20 seconds to react with
Yep.
you. And also, I'm not gonna lie to you, school really got busy
School got so
this year
bad.
for me, and so I would have liked to do more, but I just got so busy. So I definitely think in the future, once we get more of our act together, and partially that's on me, we could definitely do more because it's a fun thing to do to live stream these games. It's fun
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
mean,
It's exciting. It's exciting to watch games, man.
absolutely. And actually, the funny thing is, so I have to, my family, we do not have cable. So I have to use Wolf TV, which is NC State's television cable service. And God almighty, that thing is slower than ESPN. And ESPN is notoriously slow with updating things. Like, I'm literally getting player statistics updating on my screen because we did display the statistics before the play happened. So, you know, um, we'll see if there's a better solution for that figured out going forward. At the end of the day, I don't only have so many options as a college student. It's not like I'm rolling in money or anything like that. If you want to fix that problem, subscribe, please. We'd love that.
Feel free, man. I'm not saying no.
Yeah. You want me to actually be able to call the game live? Subscribe so that I can get cable that's not going to be 10 years behind. No, but all jokes aside, not really subscribe. It was a fun experience for me. I really enjoyed it. Obviously, talking for 4 hours on end isn't exactly the easiest thing to do, especially when there's no commercial that's going to pop up. It's going to give you a break, although we've toyed with the idea of making fake commercials. Don't know if we'll do that, add a little bit of extra entertainment or something. Because we don't have sponsors. We're not... 48 subscribers, we're not out here like FanDuel, So, but, I mean, we would love to do more live streams next year, And we talked about... Because, before we even did the San Francisco-Dallas game, we were like, I want to do 2, 3, 4 of these if we can. And, we picked that game because it looked entertaining. I mean, it was two of the best teams in the league at the time, and San Francisco just murders them. But we were, looking at other games to try and live stream, and it just never worked out. We wanted to do more, but it just never worked out. At the end of the day, we are college students, and as much as we love this channel, school does come first. It's why our upload schedule has not been as consistent as I would have liked it. And that's one of the things that we want to work on, is upload schedule. There's a point where it's like, we got to be a little more on top of things with school to be able to maintain a more consistent upload schedule. So that's something that we definitely have to work on. At minimum, we're going to try to get out at least one video a week. That's the goal. During the season, you're going to get 4 to 6. Depending on, where you... most weeks 4 weeks of the year, you're going to get about 6. That's when we get to our playoff predictions. Which those ended up doing the best. And, I mean, that's also one of the things you don't see. I don't think it's a coincidence that one of our more unique ideas did best, We look at views. The videos that did the worst are Patriots Panthers recaps. And, it's a bit sad, but at the end of the day, our other content is much more towards the entire NFL power ranking predictions. That's geared more towards the larger audience, where the Patriots Panthers stuff is more towards Patriots Panthers people. I'm not out here looking at YouTube channels like, well, how did the Minnesota Vikings do this week? Let's see what these guys said. I don't, So at the end of the day, by nature, those are going to be our lowest viewed videos, even if they're the ones that we're the most passionate about. That is unfortunately going to be the case with YouTube, where, the stuff that you're going to enjoy doing the most is often what's going to do the worst. That's an unfortunate reality, and the only way people are going to really come watch those videos is if they care about us. Because you look at Tom Grossi, it's like, I've watched his Packers stuff because I like Tom Grossi a lot. And Grossi's a big inspiration for us, watching him was a big reason why I wanted to try to do this on our own. On my own, wouldn't watch any Packers stuff, but because it's Tom Grossi, then I'd okay, I'll watch the Packers stuff. So it's like, you gotta have the name in order for that kind of thing to work, and even then, it's still not gonna be your best stuff. Power rankings generally did well. Predictions didn't do as well, but generally did all right. Playoff predictions were our big hit for sure. They were those that generated our first 1,000 view video. Same week we had 2 1,000 view videos. Both were playoff predictions. And then we had a third one, which was our Super Bowl prediction. And everyone who came out and watched, we greatly appreciate it. Every single person who takes the time out of their day to put our channel on, especially when there's literally millions of other options out there, we greatly appreciate it. You have no idea how much it means to us. Thank you all very much.
I'd like to say something about that, actually.
Go for it.
I do. I agree with you, Vegas. I really appreciate it. I really do. You don't have to watch us, but some people, wake up in the morning and you know what, you guys do choose us. And for those people, I appreciate it. It means a lot to me, and I thank you guys, I really, I enjoy doing this. This is fun. But part of that fun is to see, how many of you, want to also hear what I have to say, because it's not just an enjoyment for me of, because it is. Some of that is, it's just, I enjoy talking about this with my buddy. That's the main core reasoning I do this, is that because I love talking with Vegas about my Panthers, and about football, about a sport I love. That's what I love to do. But it's also really cool to see you guys come in and watch us, and and to give us your thoughts. I love to hear from you guys. It's so cool. So I really appreciate it. I think it's awesome. And uh and it's sad because I'm like, I really wish that my Panthers videos, I wish people, would want to hear me ramble about the Panthers, but it's me rambling about the Panthers. I get it. It's what you enjoy most from us is what you enjoy most from us, and that's great. So, and by the way, earlier, Vegas was saying our idea. It wasn't. This was his idea. That the playoff predictions was his idea. He was the brains behind the operation. Don't let him get humble. He brought us to success. But I do. I appreciate you guys. It's been a fun journey, and I really, I look forward to however long that this thing goes. I enjoyed every minute of it. Despite some of the things I say off camera to Vegas, I do. I enjoy every minute of it. I do. It's
Oh
fun,
my
man. It's
god.
fun. It's enjoyable.
Oh yeah, no, we're not gonna get into that too much, but some of our off-camera interactions have been really entertaining. But I mean, at the end of the day, there's no Vegas without a T-bone. That's just the
And no
truth.
T-Bone without a Vegas.
Oh, you deserve plenty of credit for the way this has gone. And at the end of the day, no one deserves more credit than you guys. Again, we greatly, greatly appreciate that you're willing to take the time out of your day to come watch us. And of course, what comes with that, in order for us to show our gratitude, we want to bring you the best content possible. And so I think that's a perfect segue into, what can we do better as a channel to bring you guys better content, and there are definitely some things. I mean, we're very young. I mean, number one obviously is going to be, the look, graphics, brand, all of it. There's going to be changes to that. It doesn't always look the prettiest when you little look at if you're a nitpicker like me, you notice some of the green highlights on the dog that wasn't there. That was a result of the filter we put the image of the dogs through, and I'm not. I'm tech savvy. I can play with Illustrator, Photoshop, GIMP, all that. I'm not good enough to fix that. So but look is one of the things that I've spent a lot of free time on, because that's something that you can do as busy work. That's easy. That's the easiest thing to fix. Then for us, it's the content itself. We want to be able to do this thing where we're just having a conversation about stuff. But one of the issues that we definitely noticed in ourselves this year is we would get a bit off topic and ramble for a while, especially in recap videos. Our recap videos didn't get a lot of views largely because they're a more niche thing, but I also don't think it helps that we didn't do the best job of recapping the games themselves, and we just kind of talked and rambled and got off topic a lot. And we generally take more time than we probably should to make our points, because that's actually a faster process than, trying to get it right and then cutting it a bunch of times. It's We need to be more concise. We need to be much more structured. Where there are areas where we have some structure, but there are areas where we don't have enough structure in our videos, and we think, especially with the recaps, that's a big area of improvement for us. And then, less side tangent ramblings. There can be a bit of a space maybe at the end where it's like, oh, if there's something else we want to talk about for a couple of minutes, we can. But we also don't want it to, just spend 10 minutes talking about the jersey design for the Atlanta Falcons or something like that, Which I don't think we ended up on that. I may have mentioned at some point, but just that's just like a random. We'll go on random side tangents about things like that aren't always relevant to what we're supposed to be talking about, and that's definitely an issue that we think we should fix. Now, if y'all feel otherwise, please let us know. But we definitely feel like there should be more structure, and we could be more concise about the points that we're making. We could also be a little bit better prepared sometimes, because okay, we do preparation for these videos where where maybe we watch the game before we're able to catch the game. We look at highlights, stats, all of it. But there are times where we've just straight up had to look stuff up in the middle of videos, and it's and we didn't even hit the stop recording button to do so. We're just like, all right, let me look this up a little bit, and then left it in the video. We could be a little bit better with our preparation. I think we also could write more notes beforehand, just so we have, and that fits into the structure thing, where it's like, these things we can talk about, here's what you have to say about that, and just have it in front of us and ready to go. The big thing with all of these things, at the end of the day, is the time factor. Because again, we're college students. We lead a busy life. It's hard to keep it all up, and it's like, okay, there are things that we ourselves need to work on in terms of, this, in terms of that, where it's going to take a little bit more time. And we didn't have the time part of this figured out at all this year, and so we took the easy way out a few times. And, there were times where I released something like, I feel like we could have done a little better with that. And I think T-Bone's got a little... T-Bone's less of a perfectionist than I am.
That is true. I Vegas is definitely the one that seeks perfection.
And
there's good and bad in that. There's good and bad in that, for sure.
But I mean, that's probably why I do the graphics, editing, music, etc.
Oh, and for the fact that I don't know jack
you don't know
about
how to do any of it. It's like if I gave you Illustrator, making a rectangle would be a miracle for you.
Oh yeah.
And there's literally a tool that makes a rectangle for you.
And thank God he knows that. I wouldn't.
I don't think you've opened Illustrator once in your life.
No, I.
So
and we're better for it.
There comes a certain part, because part of the tough thing for me also is my schedule is busier than T-Bone's is, and I am responsible for about 80% of the behind-the-scenes stuff. I'm making all the graphics. I'm, setting everything up for the video. I'm going to be doing the editing. I'm going to be doing the thumbnail. I had to, do all of the... I had to do a whole bunch... I spent last summer, all of last summer, doing all kinds of prep work, graphics, this, that, all of the above, for this. And I'm willing to do it. I have so much fun with all of it. It's a way for me to express my creativity. I really, really enjoy it, and I've already begun the process for next season. We got a whole new process for the way everything is gonna work. We had our deal this year. We're gonna have a whole new deal next year. I'm already deep within the weeds on all of it. I'm having so much fun making it, and I'm super excited. But what that also means is, it takes a lot of time. And T-Bone is often held to my time constraints of my busier schedule in real life, and then the fact that I also have to do all of this extra work that either he doesn't know how to do or he doesn't enjoy doing. and it makes the time thing harder for us. And again, I don't want anyone to take this the wrong way. I have no problem doing all this. I really enjoy it. I do not care if T-Bone does none of it. I really and truly do not care. It's still fun for me.
And that is
So,
the truth.
like,
He's saying the truth there.
please do not take that the wrong way. I'm not hating on him in any respect, but it does make the time reality much more difficult for us, and that is just not something that we had down. We didn't have that down, and that affects different things. Like, it's like, oh, we don't have as much time. Oh, we're not going to be able to prepare as well. We're not going to be able to do this as well. You know, oh, I'm not going to be able to make the graphics as good as I want them. You know, or it's like, oh, shoot, we screwed up that part of the recording, or maybe we could cut it a little shorter. I wouldn't have time to keep recording because we got other things we got to do. You know, or it's we just don't want to go to bed at 4 in the morning and then, you know, wake up late. It's already, you know, late here for us tonight, and I got to get up really early because I'm getting an MRI in the very, very, very early in the morning. So, you know, there's a lot to be said about all this, and there's definitely things that we want to improve because we want to bring you the best thing we can, you know. And so we're going to do our best to make that happen. And I think the other thing, too, I think, as well, that we could do a bit better is kind of... I want to be a little bit more... have a bit more defined of a brand, I guess. Like, we're happy with our logo, but I think we're trying to, you know, make it a bit more recognizable. There's some color stuff that bugs me, you know. You know, we're gonna definitely try to, you know, make some updates on that. Just try to make the overall product better for you all. And again, if you have any suggestions about how we can do that, please, please, please feel free to drop it. Any feedback is good feedback, you know? Because we're grateful for each and every one of you, and we want to be able to show our appreciation back to you, and the best way you can do that is if we're able to communicate with each other. I think that's the honest to God truth, you know? I understand that it's going to be very, very hard for us to get this channel to where we want it to be. But it doesn't happen without you all. T-Bone, anything you want to add?
No, I mean, really, you know, it starts with you guys. Whatever you guys want, please. I mean, you know, we can't do what you want unless you tell us. So, you know, and feel free. Any suggestions, we'd be happy to do. I mean, you know, we're always looking for stuff to do. You know, you know, because it's not just us. You know, it's what do you guys want? So, other than that, I mean, I get wanting to sort of get a brand going. So, I mean, yeah, that's what I gotta say.
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank all of you for showing up to us in this 2023 season. We're getting ready to move on 2024. We might take a break within the next couple of weeks. We will see, because right now I am dead in the middle of exam season, like really, really swamped. So, like, even we talk about, you know, the preparation thing. We were mostly prepared for this. I think this is a little bit better. We could have done it for this video specifically. You know, like, I mean, but it's all, it's rough. We might take a break. But I do know that next week, at least the New England Patriots Armchair General Manager video will be out. That video is in the works, and I am really excited for that one. I've been nerding out a bit.
Yeah, he has.
T-Bone, man, you put up with a lot, dude. You put up with a lot from me.
You know what though? You put up with a lot of me. You sure do. We both do.
Yeah.
And that's what's great, folks. We put up with each other.
Still haven't killed each other yet, so I think we can consider this channel a rousing success.
Oh yeah, big time.
You know, and just wait till a woman gets involved. You know, get a nice little female Rottweiler stepping into the picture that we both have the woo for. That's when things will get ugly.
Oh God, I promise I won't. I promise I won't Yoko Ono us. Promise. Do you even know what that is? Do you even
I
know what that
have
means, Vegas?
no idea what that means.
So, so yeah, guys. Obviously, you can tell I'm the more cultured one out of
Yes,
both
I,
of us,
I, I,
but
I
that's
think I think
okay.
I think we've told this story before, but Vegas and mutual friend of ours, Rowdy, had to explain to me who Nicolas Cage was. That did happen. Blame my
And that's
parents!
okay.
Blame my parents! I was banned from watching stuff like SpongeBob and the Lorax growing up, so just
You
know
didn't
where it
miss
comes
much of the
from.
world.
No, what is Yoko Omo or Yokomada or
Yoko.
whatever?
So Yoko Ono. So the Beatles. John Lennon married his second wife named Yoko Ono, and when the Beatles were recording albums and whatnot, Yoko Ono would be in the studio with them and throw off their game. And just really, she's just been touted as the one that really ruined the Beatles and really just broke them up. So when someone's saying you're being a Yoko Ono, you're breaking up. Not only are you breaking up a group, you're breaking up a good group that does good work. So I promise I won't let a chick do that to me. So that's what I mean when I say Yoko Ono. So
Alrighty
that's
then. Yeah, I mean, do you have anything else you want to add before we wrap this thing up?
no. I've said what I need to say.
Alrighty then, we want to thank you all again so very much for showing up and watching us. We know this video is a teeny bit long, and anyone who's made it this far, you've, you know, we greatly appreciate that you've taken the time out of your day to watch us talk about football. We could not do it without you all. And so, want to thank you all. We're going to leave it at that. Look forward to the 2024 season. Things the NFL can improve on. There are things we could improve on. But at the end of the day, we appreciate you showing up. Please be sure to leave your thoughts down in the comments below. We would love to hear what you all have to say. And that is going to do it for us today. Thank you all so very much for watching. Please be sure to hit the like button. Please be sure to subscribe. And we will see you all in the next video.